Welcome to Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. If you've been listening for a while, welcome back. If you're new to the show, I'm your host Fiona. My passion for sport really started when I was a competitive swimmer. This led me to study sport development at university whilst also working within the sporting industry. I'm a huge believer in sport being used as a tool for good. Each week, I'll bring you an episode with someone involved in the sporting world. It could be your local high school teacher or your childhood or current sporting hero. The difference is that it's not your typical type of questions. We talk about the highs and lows in their journey through sport, but also what they've learned from it and how it's made them who they are today. There's also a strong focus on how being involved in sport can impact the community. If you haven't already, make sure you hit follow wherever you're listening so you don't miss the drop of each new episode. If you're after some bonus content, then you can check out our Instagram or Facebook page at Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. Have you ever thought about how sport can help build character and teach you resilience? Well, today I'm chatting to Matt Rizzo about the lessons being involved in athletics has taught him. In this chat, you'll hear how Matt got involved in athletics and how at 18 years old he became the winner of one of Australia's most famous running races, the 2017 Stawell Gift. Coming from the same high school, being influenced by some of the same teachers, just a few years apart, it was incredible being able to reflect with Matt on some of the pivotal moments in his sporting journey. A notable shout out goes to one of our teachers, Nige Knighton, who made a huge impact on both our sporting journeys. There's actually 2 episodes with Nige back in season 2 if you'd like to hear some of his wisdom. But for now, let's jump into the chat with Matt. So Matt, can you tell us a little bit about your sport? Your sport is athletics and how you got into it.
Yes, so I never used to do athletics when I was little. I was always a hockey player. Mum never used to let us play like sport over summer, so athletics was right out the window. It wasn't until I was probably in year 6 that one of my PE teachers saw me run and said, "Oh, have you ever considered doing athletics?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, but Mum doesn't let me play sport over summer." So he's like, "I think you should really convince her." So I went home, kept nagging her, and she finally broke and was like, "Okay, if I let you do athletics, you can't miss one Saturday." And then from there on in, didn't miss one Saturday at all, and fell in love with it.
Oh, wow. So did you start in Little Laths?
Yeah, so I started in the Laths. So I only started in the Laths in like under 12. Like under 12s, I was pretty lucky. First year, became state champion over the 2. And I only did the Laths for a little bit because I ended up injuring myself when I was younger as well. I tore my psoas off the bone.
Oh.
So that put me out of the sport for a little bit, and then I didn't come back till like I was 14 or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Like an injury like that so early. How'd you deal with that?
I guess when I was younger, I was a little bit like upset about it because I was like, well, what's going on? Like, I don't know. Like, I couldn't do sport, couldn't do this. And it just kept tearing until I saw, I think, the head surgeon at the Royal Children's Hospital, and he operated on it. And ever since then, it's been fine. So it's been good.
Oh, that's good. You kind of need that.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
So you grew up, you've got 3 older sisters, is that right?
So I got 3 older, 1 younger, so 4 in total.
Oh my goodness. And so you're the only boy in the household?
Yes, correct.
Was sport like a bit of an outlet for you, or were they into sport as well? How did that happen?
We're all into sport. So I've had a few of them have represented Australia in like hip hop and aerobics, and the other 2 have done a little bit of athletics and played hockey as well.
Oh, awesome. So you guys were kind of encouraged, but only for the winter to start off with.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Oh, hockey. I didn't even know there was hockey. We grew up, from the same high school, so I didn't even know there was hockey in our area, but that's really cool that you started there.
Yeah, that was cool.
Was there a specific moment you were kind of like, okay, like I really love athletics, or was it just that you were good at it?
I think when I was, I definitely had a passion for it when I was younger, but didn't really think too much of it because like I didn't do it, like I didn't compete in it. And it wasn't till I think it was like the 2008 Olympic Games, watching Usain Bolt run the 100 and the 200, break the world records and Olympic records, that I was like, you know what, that's what I want to do. And I was always fast as a kid, made the athletics team, but I was always one of those, like I'd probably say like a late bloomer. I was always one of those small kids, so it's always that at that age, the bigger kids, like the man child's always won everything. So I kind of always just missed out. But yeah, I always had a passion for it.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. And is there any other significant milestones? Like, you've had some amazing results, and
Yeah.
you've recently, in the last few years, moved to Queensland from Melbourne.
Yes, correct.
What are some of your significant milestones, like injuries, losses, wins along the journey?
Oh, like injuries for me, definitely go back to when I tore my soles off the bone. Like that sent me back a little bit. And I was like, I never knew if I'd get back into sport, let alone getting back into sprinting. And I was a bit nervous coming back into athletics, that I was like, oh, if I tear it again, like it's not career ending, but like it could have been at that age. But I've had other, like I've been really lucky in my career. Like I've had some good coaches, good support crew. Like, so I've won like state titles over like the 4x1. But my biggest one for me is probably winning the Stawell Gift in like 2017. That was probably a big milestone for me because everything just went absolutely perfect that year. Like every athlete talks about a perfect like season or perfect moment in their career, and so far that has been mine.
What is that for someone who is not involved in like the running scene? What is that event?
So the Stawell Gift is run over Easter, so it's worth $40,000 to the winner. So it's the richest foot race in the world.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it's not too bad. So each athlete is got a handicap, so it's not like an all even even start. You get your handicap based on what you run throughout the years or your PBs, so they can work that out. And it's run on grass and over 120 meters, so it's a pretty big event come Easter time.
Yeah, and I saw there's lots of articles on you on the internet, and I think you even made the news for it as well.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what was that like? Because you won that quite young.
Yeah, so I won it when I was like 18. So I first made a Stawell Gift final when I was in 2016. So I was like 17. I'd just broken my collarbone that season, and I was training down at the sand dunes and at the track by myself with my arm strapped up with a belt so I could still run so it wouldn't move. So I got to experience that quite young, making my first final, and then coming back the year after. I think I was a favourite from December or something like that. So I was a pretty red hot favourite. Like when I came out at sports bet, I was like $3, and within like half an hour I was $1.50, and then by the time I got to Stawell and raced, I was like $1.05 to win my semi-final.
Wow.
So I guess like a lot of people were like, there's a lot of pressure there, but I never felt it. It was just one of those events that I've always wanted to win. Like it's part of your sporting history. So I was lucky enough to take it out in 2017.
Oh, that's incredible. Congratulations for that.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So 2017, that was a few years ago.
Yes.
Did that kind of rocket ship you a little bit forward? Like what happened since then?
I'd probably say it was a good thing and a bad thing, if I'm honest. Like a good thing, like I got to achieve something that I'd been working hard towards, but I guess also a bad thing in that aspect that everything went perfect that season, that sometimes moving forward as an athlete, you always reminisce in the past, like, oh, but this was so perfect this year. And I've learned from like then, not everything's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, seasons aren't always going to be perfect, your training sessions, but you just got to get in and do the work. But it did help me, like propel me onto, I focus a little bit more on actual track running. So over the 100 meters. And I think it was 2 years after, I think it was in 2020 leading into Tokyo, I ran 10:34 as a PB. So absolutely smashed my PB, like previous PB with that. And I was, got invited to be part of like the 4x1 Australian relay team, like training camp. So that was a cool experience for me. So yeah, it has helped, but it also has been like, and probably has taught me like a fair bit in my career as well.
Mm-hmm. And we'll touch on that in a minute, but I'm going to ask you a question. It's kind of new, but it's something to do with what you said before. If you could go back and relive a moment, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be that 2017 season.
Look, for me, like a lot of people probably would say 2017 season for me because everything went perfect, but I'd probably say when I first ventured into athletics, to be honest, always found like, I think that going back and having that enjoyment as a kid and no care in the world, no pressure, nothing, and just getting out there and just running and having fun with friends, like competing against myself and trying to better myself. That's probably the moment I'd love to relive, like putting my first set of spikes on, getting the blocks for the first time and having my first race, because I think that was probably the best part of my career so far.
Oh, yeah. And it's so nice that, you can take that back to the grassroots level and go, well, that's actually what I enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, you're 20 something now, early 20s, and you're like, well, I would
Yeah.
relive that because of the fun and the no pressure.
Yeah, exactly right.
I love that. That's so cool. And I think that's at the end of the day, like, that's probably why you still do it. Like, that's why you
Yeah.
participate, because you
I
like
think
it.
it was like I ended up becoming like I'm obsessed with it. Like I'm absolutely obsessed, and I enjoy it. So that's why I'm still doing it at like the age of 24 now.
Yeah, which is awesome. And like most people, not most people, but so many people drop out that late high school stage. So it's awesome that you're still doing it.
Yeah, and I think so also once like uni gets involved, going to uni, life gets in the way, work gets in the way, like it's hard to keep pushing on and like keep doing your sport, but if you enjoy it, you always find a way.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to keep enjoying it. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, is there any benefit sport has provided you as an individual that's transferred over to like everyday Matt?
Yeah, probably. I'm pretty like I'm on time. I'm one of those people that hates like if my missus says to me like it's 3 o'clock, we'll be there at like 2:30. So like I think sports always taught me that to be disciplined on time. But it's taught me a lot to like be strong as an individual because not everything's going to go your way in life, the same as sport. So that's really helped me like grow as a person. But yeah, it's taught me a fair few skills.
It's funny that you say that on time. Have you ever missed like a heat or something because you've been running late? Is that how it taught you?
No, even when I first started, I'd probably yell at my mum when I was younger. Like not the best, but I always like, please get me there on time, please get me on time. So I'm always there like 2 hours before I'm ready to run, just to chill out. Like my partner, Bree, she always goes to me like, oh, why are you here so early? Like, why are you getting so early? I'm like, I just like getting there, taking like the scenery, putting my bag down. If I want to chill out, talk to someone, then I've got plenty of time.
Mm-hmm. I'm the exact same. Like I came from a swimming background and I
Yep.
was the exact same. I was like, Mum, we need to get to the warm-up pool 1 hour before it even like opens.
Yeah, I think there's been a few times that I've been there and I don't even think the venue's been open yet, but I'm like, I'll still sit there in the car.
Yeah. No, oh, that's funny. It's good to find someone else who's like me.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, the resilience and the fact that you can pick yourself back up. How is that like? Does that develop over the years, or did that start from when you were young?
I think it probably started when I was young, and I didn't really take too much notice of it until I started getting a little bit later in my career. When you start to get older, things take a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a kid, you can do everything. Like you can go out, run 100 meters every day of the week, and you're fine. But as you get older, things take a little bit more time, and you got to be a little bit more patient, and you got to stick with it.
Mm-hmm. And PBs come less and less often, and you have to put more into it to get them.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. I found that like when I first started swimming, like I'd just PB almost every time I swam, and then those times happened, and it was like, oh, it's months apart or it's years apart, and you just have to
for sure.
push. Yeah, I think that's a good thing, and it's something that sport is unique in, like, but it does turn over to other things in life. Like you do have to put in work to get that promotion at work, or
exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't happen instantly.
Yeah.
So if you could go back and share a lesson with someone young, even in athletics or, you know, from our high school, a lesson that you'd share, what would that be?
I think for me, like a lesson I'd share is just trust the process and never stop believing in yourself. I think for a while there, I stopped believing in myself a little bit, and there was a few mentors around me, and I'd probably say that's another one. Like surround yourself, like get an inner sanctum and surround yourself with really good mentors that believe in you as well. That believe and always say to you, like, never stop believing and and trust the process, because if you do persevere with it, like you will get results eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome. Has there been any that have really stood out to you that you'd like to give a shout out?
Yeah, so my coach Bruce Gulliver, he coached me for a little bit and then moved to Newcastle, but he's still my mentor to this day. And another mentor of mine is Matt Carter. He was coaching me when I won the Stawell Gift in 2017, and my physio that's down in Melbourne that I chat to all the time, John Nicolosi, he coaches a few very good athletes and a few Olympians, but he's always got my back, and like I turn to him when I need a few answers.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And it's nice that
it's awesome.
Some of your first coaches, you're still in contact with.
Yeah, definitely. And like even when I made the move up to the Gold Coast, like they never really deserted me. They wished me the best, and they're always, if I ever need a hand or just to say good day or hello, how are we? Like they're always there. They're willing to pick up the phone.
Yeah, and I know that you're still in contact with some of the teachers that we went to high school with as well.
Yes, correct.
Did they like provide a big impact on your journey as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think they showed me at school. I wasn't I'll probably say I was bright, but I didn't really try. But when I did try, I got the results that I wanted. So like Nige Knighton, Vet Sport and Rec, you've had him as well. Like he really impacted my life. That he does make you feel like you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you put the hard work in, you'll get the results. And the same as Liz Sadler as well. She's one of my favorite teachers. Like she on a personal level, like she actually did care for you. And also she was the same. Like she pushed you to do your absolute best, and she'd support you the whole way.
Yeah, and are you 5 years out of high school?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so 5 years out, and these people have made such a big impact on you that you're still talking
definitely.
about it now. So
Yeah.
it just goes to show like how someone can touch your life and it still matters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, a little bit about this podcast is it's a bit community orientated. It's a bit fluffy, but has there been like a project or an event that you've been a part of that you've used sport to develop the community?
Probably not. I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Have you done any fun runs for charity?
No, definitely I haven't. I'd like to eventually do it, but I think with my busy schedule, training so much, it's sometimes a bit hard to like do other things on top.
Do you have like a local AS club that you go down to, or do you chat to some young kids?
We have a local AS club that we train down there, but I probably wouldn't say too much community. I do have a few people that message me every now and then on Instagram, do ask for tips, or like when I was down at Stawell this year, some of them asked for a few photos and a few tips on this. So like just giving back to them in that way, kind of explaining my story, but giving them belief, because, someone like me, like I'm not a superstar or anything, but to them I might be, and to hear a few tips from me actually might make them persevere in their athletics endeavours, even if it's on the track or off the track.
Yeah, exactly. And, you're like, oh, it's just old me, but you could be someone's hero, a 17-year old out there. They could be like, oh my gosh, I want to be like Matt.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And like providing them the inspiration to keep going in their sport. Like that is impacting the community.
And I think that's the biggest thing in sport today. Like encouragement's the biggest thing. Like you got to encourage the next generation. Like I think there's too many people out there that like shoot athletes down or are really negative towards athletes, but they got to remember, one, they're human, but two, like you want to see them persevere, because it's nothing better to see like someone achieve like what they've been working hard for.
Yeah, exactly. And like even more so, like the deeper the field, the better it's going to be for the sport.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And the progression, like, hopefully eventually athletics, it's not probably the richest sport in the world. It's probably the number one sport, the blue ribbon event at the Olympics, but funding and financial, like a lot of us athletes don't make much money, like, or no money at all. So it's hard to try and keep afloat. So like, hopefully, like, those kids coming on, like push the boundaries, more qualify for the Olympics, and then more publicity, and then hopefully like some financial support comes their way as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. I did an episode with Brooke Stratton, who's a long jumper, after her Tokyo Olympics, and she was, telling us about how her funding comes about, and it's really hard to come by, and it's not really enough to like equal a full-time wage. Yeah, it's your
exactly
full-time job.
Yeah.
And like as an up and coming, like that's if she was number one in Australia, she made an Olympic final. So like imagine as someone who, is just on the cusp of qualifying, how hard that would be.
And I think that's the thing. I think in most sports nowadays, we lose a lot of good athletes, and a lot of athletes that probably have the ability to go, but they don't have that financial support, or I'd probably say they probably don't have the right mentors in place to keep them actually in the sport and keep them believing and keep them going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, I guess this ties into our next question, is like where you see the future of sport. So like, how could we help that?
I think the hard thing is I'd probably say I'm old fashioned, but I think 7-day trading, especially in Australia, has probably killed sport a little bit. Because everyone, like, the price of living's gone up. Like, retail's open 7 days a week. Like, back in the day, like, my mum always used to tell me, like, everything closed at 12 o'clock on a Saturday, and Saturday afternoons were for sport, and family days, the same as Sundays were for sport. I think that's impacted a bit on sport, but sport's always going to be around, I think. Like, it's going from strength to strength. Not all sports, but yeah, it's always, everyone loves a good day out, watching the footy, watching the cricket, going to athletics, kayaking, canoeing, whatever they're into. So I think sports, well, it's always going to be around, but to improve it, I think like corporate wise, like a lot of people have to back a lot of our athletes, because a lot of our athletes are talented, like are real talented athletes, Olympians, and they don't really get the support that they need. And like I think support from the public as well. Like I had a few friends say to me, like, we stayed up for, when it was Tokyo 2021, we stayed up for Peter Bowles' 800 meter final. We watched Rowan Browning run the 100 meters. Riley Day raced the 2. And I said, and they're like, it was so awesome. Like, I absolutely loved it. Like, we'd watch it again. And I said, oh, that's awesome. So are you going to come to our national titles? And they're like, oh no, we wouldn't do that. So I think like on that level, like support, like for sport to like flourish, a lot of people have to get behind it and, come down to our local comps, come down to state champs, come to our nationals and actually support us.
Yeah, and like I know athletics has the track classics, so they're another event that, I think I was rewatching the Melbourne one. It was on TV.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's really sad. The stadium's like empty. Like, where are all the audience?
And like back in the day, it used to be like 5,000 people coming down and watching the athletes go out, the best athletes in the world and international athletes, and the same as Australian athletes all go at it. And now I think a lot of people have they're either too busy or they've lost interest a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think COVID plays a little bit in that?
I think so, yeah. I think COVID definitely plays a little bit. I think live streaming is a good thing, I think, for the sport, but then also like a bad thing that you don't actually get the bums on seats. I think that's a hard thing crowd-wise, but live streaming is probably the best things for sports as well, to keep people interested to know what they're actually doing if they can't make it.
Yeah, and it's easy just to tune in. Like I think we were even watching it, maybe, I'm going to say it was 7+. I hope I'm right.
Yeah, correct.
But I was rewatching it from like March or April, and I was like, oh, this is great. Like I was only watching it a few days ago.
Yeah.
I just look at the swimming and how that's now on Amazon Prime. Like the national championships. That's amazing. Amazon Prime. And I'm like, great, except you have to get a subscription, but it's no longer on the TV. But you can go back and you see every single heat. You see every single semi, every single final. And it's not just, the big ones where it's got an Olympian in it. You get to see every single athlete. And I think...
Yeah, for sure. That's fantastic.
And I know ASTA's doing the same. Like it's usually YouTube streamed on, I think.
YouTube. And they did have 7+ this year for the national champs, which was good.
Yeah. So like, I think that way it's great for, showing and televising sport. In terms of like the backing of athletes, like how do people do that? Do they just like support them on Instagram?
I think that's hard. Like, I think it's a hard thing, like, like supporting an athlete on Instagram, giving them a follow or something like that. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Like, I guess you're letting the athlete know, like, you support them 100%. Sometimes it's nicer, a little bit nicer coming from people, like messages rather than, oh, here you go, I'm going to give you some money to support you. Like, yeah, every athlete wants money to help them get there. But I think just people interacting with athletes and know, like, we're all human, like, we're all here to help. Like, help you out if you've got a question. We're nice, we're not going to bite. But yeah, like, I think that's a really nice gesture as well.
Yeah. And like, I know for me personally, when people message my Instagram in terms of the podcast Instagram at Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart, if you want to follow it. When people message and go, hey, I listened to this guest and their journey really resonated with me, I'm like, oh, yes, like I made an impact on someone.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And like you'd feel the same if someone, messaged him was like, hey, like I want your advice for something.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
It's certainly a great world of sport out there. And like it's really cool to see how far you've come as a person. We've come from the same high school, come from the same area.
Yes, correct.
What's next for you? Because the season's closing-ish now.
So season's done for me. I didn't have the best season. Last 2 seasons haven't been the best, but sometimes that happens in sport. You go through a little bit of a lull. So I haven't really thought about what I want to do next. Like, obviously, I want to continue to do athletics and work towards Paris in 2024 or representing the country in the Commonwealth Games or World Champs, whenever that might be. It might not be till 2028 Los Angeles. But for me, I think I'm just taking each day as it comes. Like, I've had a little bit of time off just to be a normal person. Like, if I want to go out and eat a junk food or go to Macca's, why not go do it? Enjoy myself. But I've been training on the side as well. So I haven't really thought about too much. But yeah, I'll probably sit down the next couple of weeks and plan out what's next.
Yeah, when does the season officially kick back in?
So I think the season officially kicks back in October, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it starts in October and ends Easter. But when you've got World Champs, Commonwealth Games, because we're on a little bit different schedule than like the rest of Europe, their season starts a bit different to ours. So yeah, it's a little bit, but most of the time it's October to Easter, April.
Yeah, awesome. And so you've got that, I guess, winter to decide if you want to keep going or if you want to go back to a winter sport like hockey.
Yeah, no, maybe not. Probably pretty good on the Gold Coast as well. It makes winter training a little bit easier. So I remember the days I used to have to stand there and do speed work in like rain, hail, like cold, 9 degrees, and you get up here and you're in like tights and a t-shirt and it's 24 degrees and you can just train normal.
Great. Well, it was like 3 degrees when I woke up this morning, so
I heard it was pretty cold.
Yesterday was cold too.
My partner was down in Melbourne even last week. She said it was absolutely freezing, and she said even some of the locals said we've never had it this cold before. So
yeah, it's been really cold this week. So I'm glad that you're enjoying the heat training.
Well, it's nice at the moment. I think it's meant to rain for the next 3 weeks up here, so it might be a little bit like Melbourne, but yeah.
Oh, 4 seasons in one day though?
Oh, probably not. No.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on and joining us and sharing your journey. It's been great to, talk to you. We're from the same high school, like I've said before.
Yes.
And, supporting the podcast as well. Like, thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me. No, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. This is a completely independent podcast that has been created to share the journey and lessons of top-level sporting professionals, but also your everyday lover of sport. If you liked this podcast, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a review and share it with someone who you think would also enjoy it. Until next time.